you know, you can have the best camera in the world, but if you don't, I don't know, if you don't hone in on your practice and, you know the art, it's difficult to actually project what you want and make good use of the camera, if that makes any sense.
Hello, everybody. We're here with another episode of the Black Female Landscape and Nature Photographers Photo Talk. And today we are happy to be talking with Tara Workman. Let's kick this off by, Tara, you told us what city and state you reside in?
So currently I'm living in Portland, Oregon, but I grew up in Barbados.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long you've been in the States? Or at least in Portland?
So I've been in Portland, well, Oregon, I've been in since 2010. Moved to Portland in 2014, but I've been in the States since 2007. Yeah, so I lived in Tallahassee, Florida first, and then I had to get out of Tallahassee, Florida.
Ooh, this is inquiring minds want to know.
Wait a minute, I interviewed Jamel Bland.
Oh yeah.
And he said, yes, he said the exact same thing, that he was in Florida and he had to get out of Florida. So what's going on with Florida?
So I had a good time. So I'm actually a family physician, so I did residency there. And okay. I was single. Everybody I was friends with was married, and it just, I don't know, it wasn't where I wanted to be. And I'd never been onto the West Coast and seen the West Coast much. And so took a job in Eugene, Oregon. And I don't know, just needed to change. Okay. And it was great. It was great.
So let me ask, you leave Florida and you go to the Pacific Northwest, and you were born and raised in Barbados. So
I'm weird. No, so basically, you know, my plan was always to go back to Barbados. Love it there, family's there, but I also wanted to see a little bit more of the world, just experience a little bit more of the world. I hadn't been to the West Coast. I had a couple of friends who graduated with me and they were moving to Portland. I got a job in Eugene thinking, okay, I'm just going to be here for a couple of years. And then, you know how things go, met a boy, got married, and he wouldn't leave. And here we are, you know?
Okay.
Darn boys, I tell you.
I know.
So how long have you been in photography?
2016. Yeah. So about 8 years.
So that was the first time you ever picked up a camera?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yes and no. I mean, I always loved to take photos. I actually would buy cameras, but I didn't know how to use them. They were always in auto. But in 2016, so I'd been married a couple years. I wanted to buy a new camera. And my husband was like, why? And I was like, well, you know, I want to grow into a camera. He was like, you have too many. You don't know how to use them. If you're going to buy a new camera, learn how to use it. So I actually took a class just to get the new camera. And then I got obsessed, and I think he regrets it. No, he doesn't regret it. But I mean, we used to do a lot more things together, and photography kind of took over. So I do a lot more photography than I think he would have liked initially.
What was it about the other cameras, or what had you buying those other cameras where you were like?
I don't know. I just like taking photos, and then I would just, I don't even, I don't, like, I don't even remember what the cameras were. Like, I would just see an ad for something, and then I'd be like, ooh, that looks good. And in my mind, I was gonna learn how to use them. Never did.
So what was the brand of the camera that you decided on?
I ended up with the Nikon D5500. That one I remember because I actually knew how to use it.
So are you
Okay.
currently capturing with Nikon now?
No, I actually switched to Sony. So a couple years in, photographing at the coast, wave came, camera went down, but it was a good excuse to upgrade, and so I ended up switching to Sony, and yeah.
You were like,
Okay.
no, seriously, really, the wave did come. No, really.
Yeah, yeah. He was there. He actually saw, so I didn't have to. He knew it. Yeah, he knew I
Oh,
was telling the truth.
oh.
Well, that was a good way to upgrade your camera gear.
Indeed,
Yeah,
indeed.
wave comes and get it.
Yeah.
So when it comes to photography, a lot of people say, it's the camera. Oh, it's a nice camera you have there. I'm sure it takes good pictures. So what's your opinion on that? Is it the camera? Is it the photographer?
It's definitely, for me, it's the photographer. You can have the best camera in the world, but if you don't, I don't know, if you don't hone in on your practice and know the art, it's difficult to actually project what you want and make good use of the camera, if that makes any sense. So for me, it's definitely the person behind the camera.
Okay.
Yeah, because if you don't know how to use the camera or know how to, compose a photo, it doesn't even matter what camera
Indeed.
you're using. It's not gonna, it doesn't know what you want it to do. So
Yeah. Perfect
go
example
ahead.
is all the cameras that I had before. I didn't know how to use them, and I wouldn't even look at those photos right now.
Do you
Well,
still have those cameras?
No. I think we took them to Goodwill at some point. Yeah.
Okay.
so what do you enjoy most about photography?
Gets me out. It gets me out. It's actually the one thing that kind of quiets my brain. I also feel like photography, nature photography especially, I see the world differently. I see nature differently. I see, there's just something about just watching light, watching the way that, scenes will change with different conditions and stuff like that. I don't know. I feel like it was a gift. Um, I'm actually grateful to my husband for pushing me to go to that
Okay.
class because I don't know. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I mean, the things that we see when we're out there, most people have no idea that they exist, So
Right.
yeah.
And
Right.
what was that aha moment when you were in that class where you're like, I get it?
I don't even know that there was an aha moment. I think the fact that every week there were assignments and I did the assignments every single week. You're working a full-time job, yet you're finding time to do this, and I would have to go somewhere, or if I couldn't go anywhere, I would still, make time to do the assignments. I think, you know, obviously you're hooked at that point if or you're at least serious about it if you're going to put in that time, because I've spent money on courses and stuff like that in the past, and didn't put as much effort.
Okay.
No.
No.
So have you been to any workshops?
Yeah. um Actually, didn't I think the most use that I got was actually, I think you had him on, David Thompson. Yeah, so I've done a couple of Skype sessions with him. He's amazing. He's just a great mentor. And then I did a lot of online like conferences and stuff like that. I don't know if you know the Outsiders conferences.
Yeah, we went there last year.
We went to Utah to attend that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So them, and then out of Chicago, I did one of their online things. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. And how do you find would you recommend workshops to somebody who's starting out? Okay.
Definitely. I mean, I think there's a lot to be said for getting feedback. I think my photography took off, or at least, drastically improved once I was getting critical feedback from people that I respected. Because, you can definitely learn a lot online. You can definitely learn a lot through just practicing and those kind of things. But I don't know, it's good to get other perspectives, especially, in something that's so subjective like photography, where everybody sees things differently. Everybody enjoys a different part of it, or sees, value in doing things different ways. And for me, the one thing, I still ask a lot of feedback from people, even if I don't take the advice. It's good to see how other people see an image, or how they would do it differently, or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, it always helps to get, feedback. And like you said, it's so subjective. And, there are a lot of times where people will just snap an image and don't realize, like, there's small things that matter, like, your horizon line, if it's,
Yeah.
it's a lot of different things, and it does help. A lot of times with people are kind of sensitive for criticism, but like you were just saying, yeah,
and it's not, I mean, for me, it's one of those things where you can't look at it as criticism. It's more critique. It's more, okay, what would you do differently, or what do you see that I don't see? And you might not necessarily agree unless it's something that's glaringly obvious. So a lot of the people that I ask for advice, David's one of them, they might say something like, well, I might do this, or, I might have left out this part of the image because it's too distracting, or something like that, as opposed to, you shouldn't do that, or that's not right, or, even things like rule of thirds and the things that we learn initially, they're guides, but they're not necessarily things that you have to stick to. And I think I think everybody should learn the fundamentals and understand why there are certain fundamentals and rules, but, branching out and experimenting, one, is fun. Two, you get some surprises, in terms of, compositions that work that you wouldn't have expected worked. So, yeah.
So what do you find to be the hardest part of photography? Or what you do, you're mostly intimates though, right? You gravitate. Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the hardest part of that, doing intimate photography? Intimate landscape.
I think I will say it was easy until people took notice. And so photography for me is fun. It's the way that I unwind. But I would go out, I would have no expectations, and I wasn't expecting to get an image every time I went out and stuff like that. But there are a few people that I look up to, and people have taken notice of my photography. And I think that the hardest part for me now is going out and still having fun, not caring, because now I'm like, okay, will people like this image? And I think there was, there's a point where if you do get better and people do take notice, you still have to, find the joy that you found and the reasons that you started photography in the first place. So for me, I think the hardest part is not caring about what other people think about the photography and just enjoying what I like about nature and what, sparks my curiosity, as opposed to what I think other people might like,
Makes sense. Because with social media these days, people are right. The pressure, people are like, oh, that looks amazing. They got a trillion, gazillion, billion likes. I want to do that. And
and it doesn't matter. But I mean, I've gotten better at it. I think I just had to go out and shoot, you just go out and be like a kid.
Shoot for you.
Shoot for you and just follow your curiosity. Yeah.
Right.
What has been your most challenging subject to capture?
I love forest scenes. I love trees. I don't have a lot in my portfolio because I don't know. I struggle when I get into forest scenes. I'm better with like textures and sadly desert kind of stuff. And I love the water. I love green. I love all of those things, but I've been struggling with getting like I enjoy going to the Bay Area, Monterey area, and I've been a couple of times and I have not come away with anything that I really, really love yet. However, it's a challenge, but still, as long as you're enjoying going and enjoying the process, the getting the images isn't the end goal. So it's interesting. So I started photography when with the whole Instagram age, where, gosh, it was all about likes and posting and, I also live in the Pacific Northwest where, lots of waterfalls, mountains, all the things. And so you start out, shooting Multnomah Falls and all the popular locations. And I actually met some of my best friends doing this, but about 2 or 3 years in, I started to just feel like we were doing the same things over and over again. So you had seasons. So you had tulip season in April. You had, waterfall seasons in the spring, Milky Way season. You had seasons, fall, and then it was you shoot a location and then you try to post it before anyone else does. It was just it was all the wrong things. Exactly. The other thing is that I felt like I was just producing work that everyone else was doing, if that makes any sense.
A lot of sense.
And so I started to just, I don't know, I wasn't as fulfilled in the way that I was photographing. And so I started to look at photographers that I enjoyed their work, photographers who, basically were at the top of their game and why they were at the top of their game. And basically what I realized was they were all doing different things. They were all doing things that people started to emulate, and so for me, I was like, I don't even know that I could do that. But I then started to, I don't know, I just started to look at, can I shoot differently? What do I want to shoot? And then in 2020, pandemic hit. I'd actually signed up for a workshop with, I don't know if you know Alex Noriega, Sarah Marino, Jennifer Renwick. So they're 3 photographers that I absolutely loved. They focused on small scenes. And so I'd signed up for a workshop with them. Pandemic hit. And so that got scrapped. And then I did the out of Chicago, they had this online conference, and so I did that. And that kind of changed a whole lot in terms of just going out shooting just differently. I also couldn't travel, so I actually would go out into my neighbor's garden and just, you know, shoot the plants, the hummingbirds. My husband and I would rent a house at the coast, and so I would just start shooting textures of the sands and stuff like that. And I just found I enjoyed it more. I had images that were uniquely mine. And I just personally found I was more fulfilled by that. Ironically, I also got more recognition from people that I looked up to, with regards to my work, which, you know, was never the goal, was never, but it was just kind of a, I don't know, a lucky side effect of changing the way that I photographed, and I don't know, yeah, and so I don't know, it's just kind of taken off from there. And so now I basically just follow my curiosity more than anything else. I'm usually the one that's like, okay, let's go on a trip. Somebody picks where they want to go because they want to shoot something. I go, and if I see something I like, I see something I like. If I don't, I see a pretty place, you know?
So if money were no object, where would
Mhm.
your curiosity take you?
Ooh, so, oof. So weirdly, I've been craving a lot of like minimalist, snowy scenes recently, and I haven't been able to get what I want yet. I went to Scotland. I would definitely go back to Scotland. New Zealand, I absolutely love, and Norway. Those are the three places that I would probably spend a lot of time.
Okay.
Yeah, anywhere that's uncomfortable and cold, apparently.
I mean, you're in Portland, so I mean,
Yeah.
So,
I'm a failure as an island girl, apparently. I don't know.
your family is like, let's revoke the card. She's no longer an island.
I'm telling you. So New Zealand, I actually took a trip there for my mom's birthday. So my sister and I, we treated her to a trip, and they were gracious enough to come out with me one morning, and it was beautiful. It was a wonderful sunrise. They saw, you know, glaciers and stuff like that, icebergs, and then at the end of it, they were like, "That was wonderful. Thank you so much. Never again. Never again." So yeah, but you know, I don't know. I'm weird.
No, you're
that's
not.
okay.
You're very far from weird. Let us tell you that.
Appreciate that. Appreciate it.
So, who or what inspires you to keep exploring and, you know, creating and taking photos?
Nature in general, I just love. I mean, before photography, we used to hike and do a lot of outdoors activity. So for me, nature will always, you know, keep me going. But I also, you know, there's a part of me that wants to keep getting better at it, you know. And there are
Yeah.
people like David Thompson, like Alex Noriega, um, Sarah Marino. When I look at their work, every time I'm just like, how do you keep getting better? You know, you just keep getting better. You know, like there's certain people that you feel like they peak, but they just, the work that they keep putting out, it's just amazing. And for me, I want to keep, I don't want to just keep shooting. I want to keep being able to evolve in the craft,
Right.
and you know, just, I don't know. But everybody, you know, in terms of, but it's evolving in a place where I'm happy, not necessarily crowd pleasing images or anything like that,
Right.
to be clear.
Got it. Noted. What's the 2023 photography goal for you?
Just shoot. So 2022 is interesting. I went through a bit of my first real funk where I just didn't feel like shooting. I didn't feel like I felt like I was doing the same things over and over again.
Right.
And just kind of lost my mojo. And so end of 2022, I just booked a bunch of trips, and I was just like, well, we're just gonna shoot. We're just gonna whatever happens, and each trip, so I did Tetons, then I did Washington. I went and visited my friend Jared in New Mexico and did White Sands, and then Death Valley, and then I just got back from Scotland. So I'm poor right now, but happier than ever. Happier.
Wait a minute, you can't be poor. It's not even April.
No, I'm not. I spent a good bit of money trying to get out of a funk. So after April, I'm like, I gotta cut myself off. Take a little bit of a break, but definitely in a better mental space. So 2023, I think, is just the year of just, getting my groove back,
Okay.
Okay. Well, sound like you had fun though, even though you were in a funk.
Yeah, I mean, I think
those are nice places.
Yeah. Well, I think just getting out of my own head and actually just getting into nature was the best medicine. So yeah.
It is. I wish we could just bottle it up. Take 4 days of a nature hike. Take 2 walks on the sand, and we'll see you in 6 months.
I'm telling you, it would fix a lot of things that people have going on. A lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah. So aside from the obvious camera gear, what is the one item you must have in your bag?
So,
well, before we get into that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask you, I was gonna say, I actually was in your bag, but us as photographers, we always looking for that perfect bag. Do you have that a perfect bag, and what is it if you do?
I've got I'm so bad with gear. I have an f-stop.
Okay.
I have an f-stop. I cannot remember which one I have. It's the smaller one, because I don't like to have a lot of gear. So for me, I also, and you asked, whether it's the photographer or the camera. It's truly the photographer. Like I sold a lot of my camera gear. I have 2 lenses. I have a very, very small tripod. For me, it's just I want to put something on my back, and I want to be able to go. I don't know. So for me, it's it's not about gear, but I know I have an f-stop. I don't know which one.
So what's that item that always has to be in that bag? That's not camera gear.
It's not camera gear. It is Werther's candy. It's a weird one. I know. I told you I'm weird.
No, you're not weird, but okay.
Every trip, I get a pack of Werther's, and stuff a couple in my bag for every outing, and that's what I do. That's what I have to have. Yeah. And it's become this like tradition where one of my friends, Jared, who he's the best. Like one trip, he just like threw a bunch of them open, and he was like, "We're ready. Let's go. Let's go."
You're like, thank you very much.
Yeah.
So with you being out in so many different terrains, be it snow or sand, and we as landscape and nature photographers are on our feet for long periods of time. What's your favorite shoes or boots?
Right now I have Merrill. Yeah, I told you I'm terrible with like gear. As long as they're waterproof, as long as they're comfortable. So I've tried on a few different Merrill boots, and they're the ones that I usually are, they fit me the best. They're the most comfortable. Yeah.
What about warmth?
REI, my jacket's an REI jacket. I usually, so yeah, REI jacket. I usually have something fleece underneath. I definitely have fleece, so long johns, usually fleece pants, and then I've got like a rain wind pullo, outer shell pants. Yeah. So for me, it's about being warm, comfortable.
Right.
The one, like for me, because I do like to go into colder places, like my hands are always cold. So the one thing that I do is I actually have mittens, and I stick, little warm, the hand warmers.
Yeah.
I stick those in mittens, and then I just have like a liner glove. And that way, like my hands are always warm. So then when I need to shoot, I can just take them out and they're in the liners, and then you just stick them back in there. And that's my hack for just staying warm with the hands.
Okay. So do you have a preference on weather?
Not really. I mean,
the season?
I think my preference is warm, but what I usually end up with is never warm. I would say that my favorite time of year to shoot though is winter, because sunrise is sunrise is late, sunset is early, you're done, and I'm in bed.
Right.
It's the like, I don't do Milky Way or anything anymore because I like my bed. I like to sleep.
When you are out and you're doing all of this shooting, are you a photographer that's like, I will get to my SD card later? Or do you immediately come home and you just load it into the computer and see what you've captured?
I used to load it immediately. Now I've had like 2 weeks, like the Scotland, I just got back from Scotland, I think 2 weeks ago. The photos are on the hard drive, but it took me about 3 or 4 days. I haven't culled the images yet, and it's been 2 weeks. This weekend, I said I'm gonna do it. We'll see.
Okay.
I don't know. Because I took so many trips, I have so many backlogs of images now. Before, I used to be on top of it, and I used to just put out the images. Now I'm just, I don't know, you might see them in a year.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. That's me.
Me too. Like, oh, yeah.
So what advice would you give someone who is just starting out in photography and landscape?
Yeah, have fun. I think that there are a couple of things. One, have fun. Two, learn the basics, but also pay attention to what your curiosity is telling you. Like, what are you curious about? Even if the images aren't good, it can kind of guide you in terms of the photography that you might like, as opposed to what everyone else is doing. Because the way that we all learn is by, copying what other people are doing, which is the way I learned and stuff like that. But it's hard to then shift back to what you might have done if you just downloaded how to work a camera on your own. So for me, it's important to just have fun, follow your curiosity, learn the basics, and then try to experiment and just have a good time. Make bad images, experiment, make bad images, so that you might have one image out of all those bad images that you're like, wow, well, that worked. How did that work? And then you follow that.
Right.
One of the other things that I always encourage people to realize is that there will always be another image. As long as you're out there and you're shooting, we've all had missed opportunities. We've all had like that shot that you took that was blurry, or that shot that your iPhone looked better. because it had a better comp, you know. But for me, as long as you're out there, the next amazing image it's coming. It really, really is. And it feels like the one that you just missed that you knew. Like I used to get so, so upset. My husband and I would be on trips and I would see something and he'd be like, no, we're not stopping this time. We stopped 10 times. We're not stopping. I'm like, but that's the shot, you know? But the reality is there are more images. There are more images. So don't get frustrated about the missed ones. You know, you cry, you let it go and then just move on.
You're like,
Yeah, I think a lot of the new ones, new photographers just now getting started, you know, as you mentioned, social media, we have a tendency to look at what other people are making and what they're doing. And then we come back and look at ours and like, oh, why doesn't mine look like that? Not realizing that it's a process, and the more you do it, the better you get. And even looking at your old work versus where you are now, you can see where you know you've leveled up and you learned. So you know, it takes time. It takes time.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's why I haven't changed my Instagram. You know, you could go back and a lot of the work I look at and I'm like, ooh, but it's there and I'm not ashamed of it. It's just like for me, it's one of those things where it's a part of the process, it's a part of my journey. And hopefully people are inspired by it and feel like, okay, well, I can get there.
Right, exactly.
I look at other people and I'm still like, geez, I need to get there.
You already there, in my opinion.
Absolutely agreed. You are.
Oh, thank you.
With we all know when it comes to seeing or identifying with others that look like us in this genre, you know, first and foremost, you wouldn't see us, right? And given that it's now 2023, and though we're, you know, meeting more and more men and women in this genre that we can clearly identify with, how do you feel at this point, being 2023, seeing more of our Black women and men out in this genre? But I'm gonna push it more to women.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that our percentage is even a lot less.
Right.
You know, for me, it just, as I kept saying, I'm weird. I've always been the weird one. But for me to have other people that look like me doing and enjoying the things that I found I was weird for, you know, it's just wonderful. And I think, you know, a lot of Black women, men, you know, we don't have the opportunity to see that nature is out there. And, you know, and for me, I think if more people were given the opportunity to just go out on a hike, go, you know, go see a waterfall, go see, you know, go see the desert, go see something that you haven't seen before, you know, I think it would change a lot of people's lives. And so for me, you know, just seeing what you guys are doing, you ladies are doing, I think it's amazing. Because I think the mental health improvements that people get just from nature in general are, you know, are immense. And so if the Black population could at least be uplifted, not necessarily, you know, and the thing is, it could be a park. It doesn't even have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be getting on a flight, just getting out in nature. I think, I don't know, so many people would be better off.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's relaxing and calming.
It is. It is. This world is messy. This world is messy. It's hectic. So many to-do lists, so many things, and I don't know, just get out and just quiet.
Yeah, it opens your eyes up to so many things that mentally takes you away from what may be bringing you down. You know? And there's so many times, there's times when, you know, even I'm out and I'm like, look at what that robin just did. Oh my gosh, that was so cute.
Exactly. It's the little things. It really, really is the little things. As I said, in 2020, I would go into my neighbor's garden and she would be she'd be at the window. I'd just be sitting there watching hummingbirds and stuff like that. And I would feel so much better, you know. As a family physician as well, it was a really, really stressful time. Stressful for everybody, but you know, work-wise, it was really stressful. So for me, that was joy. That was actual genuine happiness. And I didn't go anywhere other than a few steps, you know, down the block. So, you know, it's just, I don't know. I think it saved me. Photography and nature especially saved me in 2020.
Yeah, there was.
So being that you said that, did the pandemic have a big effect on you being able to go out and shoot other than to your neighbors or?
Yeah, I mean, so I think it pushed me to be a little bit more creative
Okay.
in terms of what I could shoot. And so some of my favorite images like of water and stuff were just at the dog park. Um, you know, so I would shoot abstracts of the water at the dog park. We would go to just the coast, which is, you know, an hour and a half drive. We would, you know, and so I think because photography was my outlet, um, and because I couldn't do the things that I normally did in photography, it pushed me to be a little bit more creative. But I needed to not think about everything else that was going on. And so I did more and more photography. So like if I had a day off and my husband was working, I would just go to my neighbor's garden and I would just sit there and I would sit there for like 4 hours, you know, by myself, no podcasts, no earphones or anything. I would just sit there. Yeah. So yeah, the pandemic was bittersweet in that it was a terrible time, but I think with regards to my photography, it was probably the best thing that happened to me, ironically.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can people get in touch with you?
So you can find me on my website at taraworkmanphoto.com or Instagram at taraworkmanphoto as the tag.
Awesome. People, we will also have information or those, her Instagram, her social media, her website in the description of this video. We want to thank Tara for allowing us to jump into her photography brain and share, you know, some of her history and skill set with us. And if you are not yet subscribed to our channel, please do so. Share, like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell, visit Tara, tell her, hey, say I saw you on the interview and all of that. So we want to again thank our guest, Tara Workman.
Yeah. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you.
It was great to meet you, and thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
No problem.